Hey everyone, I'm here with our good friends Sean Fillin, Kay Wastelish, and Ari Monroe.
Hi.
We're all, well, I said we are all, they're all various cartoonists with various backgrounds and projects. You probably all, they all have stuff for download for free on our free comics page. You probably met most of them at our various events and free comic book days throughout the years. Um, but I'm going to go around and ask everyone a couple of questions. And I guess we'll do beauty before age. So, Sean,
Wow.
tell us a little bit about how you got started, cartooning and art in general.
I guess the cliche is that I've always been doing it. I don't know. I was making comics while I was in school. And what got me going in making bigger projects is the idea of working on stuff with my friends. In like elementary school and even into high school, me and my buddy Zach, we would pass around this notebook, just like this regular old rinky dink, loose leaf paper notebook, and we'd pass it back and forth doing a couple pages each day. And so the idea of like making things with other people has been my driving force in making stuff. And I've just kind of been doing it since, and I'm not good at much else, so I'm just gonna stick with what I got. Pretty much.
Oh, I don't believe that.
Anyway, I love making stuff. I'm okay at it. I think I'm good at it.
You're good at it.
Thank you. So I plan on sticking with it, and it's been really fun.
So, Ari, how about you? How'd you get started in this crazy game here?
You want the long version or the short version?
Whichever version you think you'd rather tell.
Okay, well, no, I just always liked drawing when I was a kid. I'm sorry, my phone's broken. When I was a kid, I liked to watch a lot of cartoons, so I was super into Ninja Turtles and Little Mermaid and Tiny Toon Adventures, and then I just started drawing a lot, and because there was nothing better to do. And I just kept doing it. And so I went to school for art after I graduated, and I later went to the Joe Kubert School, and then tried to study some animation, and now I work as a caricature artist and a comic book artist from home right now at the moment.
And what about you, Kayla?
Yeah, I think pretty similar to what these guys said. When I was a kid, Sailor Moon was on TV, and that was like the first like obsession I think I ever had with like anything, but especially like a TV show. And so I just remember like spending, hours trying to like try and draw in that style and try and draw the characters. And I think the connection to comics didn't really happen later in life, which sounds kind of stupid because I loved cartoons, and like my dad was always a really big comics guy, but it's kind of like you just like you're growing up and you don't really make those connections, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I can put cartoon characters with stories together as a comic that makes so much sense. So then that's when I kind of started doing it.
And it's funny because
and my husband helped.
Oh yeah, your husband and I talked about Ninja Turtles for an hour and a half already on the stream. So
an hour and a half. Oh my gosh.
But no, it's funny because like you mentioned, you don't get into comics until later because almost all of that stuff you guys mentioned are based on comics or in Sailor Moon's case, manga.
Right.
So it's interesting how like sequential like artwork kind of informed a lot of things, and people may or may not even have noticed that they've done that. But yeah. So like, what would you say are like kind of some of the challenges in starting out and building a name for yourself that people who watch this who might be interested in becoming an artist, what would you say like they should be looking out for?
If you build it, they will come.
I mean, honestly, yeah, that's a really good point. Like a big thing for me is I try to make stuff that I would enjoy. And by putting something out there that I know I like, there's a good chance someone else is going to find it and go like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then they jump on board. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think to go off of what Sean and Ari said, I think, you know, like in my experience, I feel like there's certain things that I'm like, oh, I wish that this existed, and then you're kind of like, well, why not be the one to make it, you
Yeah.
know?
True,
Uh,
true.
You be
But
the
I would-
change you want to see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cliche stuff.
But yeah, I know you guys have all been being at the grind for this at different lengths of time here. Say Ari's probably been doing this the longest, then Sean, then Kayla, but that kind of works out just age in general. But like, so what are some of the projects you've done that you're most proud of? Let's say start with Ari on this.
I think I'm most proud of my book. Yeah.
Aw.
Yes, and we have that. Like most artists that I know, we have that for sale at the store. And since we're still probably closed by COVID when you're watching this, you can buy it on our web store.
Wah, wah.
Yeah,
I feel like this took me 10 years to make because I started the story back in like 2010 as like a little short story that I was hanging out with some friends and I was just kind of drawing with them, and then like life got in the way and I never finished it. So one day I was like, I want to finish something, and like I'd been through all these life changes and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna to finish my book. And so I drew a cover for it and I started, you know, finishing the story off because I had written most of it, and then I threw some like fun sketches in the back. And so it was a good little thing for me to do, but it was also a big challenge because I spent so many so much of my time just like I don't want to say putting it off, but just like doing so many other things for like lots of other people, and just being like, I don't have time for that because I have these other important items that need to be completed. So that year I made up my mind. I was like, I'm gonna make time for my comic and get one done. So I did, and I was very excited about it. So yeah. And now I'm working on another one.
nice.
Nice.
Cool.
Can't wait to see the new one.
Yeah, it's still being written.
Fair enough. What about you, Kayla?
Yeah, so my husband and I started writing a comic about, I want to say 3 years ago. It's a web comic, and he is the writer and I am the illustrator. And I think that we've been trying to really build up our like social media presence and our web presence before we kind of try to put it out there as a book, I guess. But I think that our main goal right now is to try and write and draw enough issues to bind it together in like a nice volume, so that way people can like pick it up and see where it started and where it ends. I always cringe a little bit when I look at the first issue and I'm just like, oh. But it's like kind of cool to see like the progression of, you know, like you can see it getting better, you know, and that's kind of cool. Like, and I think that the fun thing that we try to do with it is we don't really put like boundaries on it. You know, every issue I'll try a different kind of medium. Like right now I'm really into like this digital kind of world. And so it's like nice that we don't really, because it is our own little project that we're kind of putting out into the world ourselves, we can really like push and play and see where it goes and see how it transforms, and not really care if it doesn't look the same from issue to issue. Like the consistency isn't really that important to us, you know, look wise. But when I'm not working on that, I've been working on putting together a children's book, which is, for those of you who don't know, which is probably everybody watching, I am also an elementary art teacher. So I always like to read stories to the kids to kind of connect to whatever project we're making. But they're, you know, in my very humble opinion, I feel like it's really hard to find like an art book that is like cute and exciting. So I've been trying to kind of like, you know, like we were talking about before, I really wish this existed. Okay, well now I'm going to sit down and try and make it for myself, you know? So that's what I've been working on right
Okay. And what about you, Sean?
I have three things. just because I think I've had the most time to
Jesus.
think about it.
Mhm.
I the thing I'm probably the most happy with is my senior thesis. When I graduated college, I basically put together a cartoon pilot, and I loved it. It's about this little dumb jerk, little sheriff guy, and he befriends a crook in the town, a criminal, and they become best friends, and then they kind of help each other out. And I don't know, it's good. It's a cute little pilot, but I've been developing it into a webcomic for a long time with my friend Billy Bates. They're writing it. We're writing it together, but Billy does most of the work. So that's been great. That's another project I've been working on and off for a long time. A comic that I always forget that I did, but I absolutely love, is one that I did with my friend Zach, who I was talking about earlier. We did this last year, and we kind of moved back to what we did in high school, where we would go back and forth. So basically what we did is we just made a comic up as we went along, one page at a time. And we just gave it like a nonsense name. It's called Drywalled. I don't know why. Like, I don't know, drywall. But that's probably the project that's given me the most like energy out of anything, because it was just nonsense fun. It really brought me back to what like I started doing, or like why I started drawing and everything. So I love that. And then something that I'm working on right now, pretty much just for fun, is I'm working on a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic with my buddy Moses. And he's someone who draws like super hyper fantasy realistic kind of stuff. He wants to get a job working with Magic the Gathering, so anything that looks like that is what Moses normally does. So we're kind of working together on something, kind of merging my super cartoony goofy stuff with his like hyper realistic wizard.
Yeah, I was going to say, that does not describe your art at all.
No,
Not
awesome,
which
that
is
that's a
why
bad
it's
thing.
fun. No,
Yeah.
that's why I like it. Is we basically, I wrote a story for him and he wrote a story for me, and we swapped. So we're writing stories for each other. But it's just so far become my favorite thing that I've worked on. Again, like seeing your growth from like whatever you started doing and now what you're doing now. It's really rewarding. So I'm excited for everybody to see it when it's out.
Have you guys found it better to work to collaborate with somebody else, or is it do you prefer doing your own projects?
I mean, I'll say for me, I
I love
definitely,
collaborating.
yeah, I love it. I love collaborating with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, I
always
think-
fun. They always have something interesting or different to bring to the table from your vision. So it's always kind of cool.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, I was kind of thinking about this the other day because I love to collaborate with people. I think that oftentimes I get creative block in, terms of like, well, what do I want to draw? So it's kind of nice to have somebody like present that to you, and then you can kind of put your spin on it visually. But then also it's kind of nice when you can do both things for yourself, because from the beginning when I'm writing that story, I already am envisioning what it's going to look like, and I can I don't have to worry about making sure that it's what other people are also visualizing. It's kind of like, well, I know what I'm seeing when I'm writing it. So when the drawing process almost comes a little bit smoother, I think.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
generally collaborating, I prefer it.
Yeah, I just know that, since you guys are doing a creative, artistic thing, it's something you have to be able to find the right person that you can like mesh with, and I know that's always difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm lucky that
That's
most of my
true.
best friends are the people I'm trying to work with.
Yeah.
So that works out.
But now, Sean, I know you and I day jobs have been affected by the whole pandemic thing here.
Mhm.
But have you guys adapted to being stuck at home all day? Has it helped or hindered you in any way?
Things haven't changed much for me. The only thing that's changed for me really is like, so I'm a caricature artist and I draw at a lot of parties and events, and I do like comic book shows and festivals. and a lot of those things have been canceled. So that means I'm not traveling the way that I really enjoy doing. Like, and so that's a big disappointment to me because, like, you know how when you're not doing something that you're doing it and you're complaining about it, like, oh, I gotta go do all this stuff. And then when you're not doing it, you're like, oh crap,
Right.
my life is incomplete.
Yeah.
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So now I'm all like, I want to be in another space right now.
I want to talk to anyone else, please.
Yeah.
I almost feel guilty about how much I'm kind of enjoying the stay-at-home order. So I'm just like getting a lot of work done. I think that, you know, like a lot of people are suffering and you know, my heart goes out to them. But I think that like I would be mad at myself if I didn't spend this time like making as many things as I possibly could, you know, because that was always my issue. It's like I come home from work and I know that I should be working on this thing that I really care about, but I'm also just really tired and I don't want to use my brain anymore today. So it's been nice having like this kind of like unlimited time and space to do all of the things that were on like my checklist.
I can sleep.
Yeah. I'll say I've been kind of struggling because like I have that mindset and I'm normally someone who like just needs to work. I need to be working on a project like always. I think that's when I function best. But I don't know. Lately, I've just been really struggling for whatever reason. I think just overwhelming stress about everything. I don't know. And like I try to work. I try to do a lot, but it's I don't know. It's a tricky time.
Yeah, I find that my schedule being now the way that it is, I find it harder to structure my day. Because like it feels like all time just blends in together and it's just like a big blob. Whereas like before, like, you know, I'd be like, well, you know, this is my day off. This is the day I go to work for, you know, 1 to 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
You can kind of, you know, it kind of helps focus what you need to do around something. But I know a lot of what, you know, this kind of stuff you guys can do from home. Obviously, you know, we have other jobs and we're able to focus on adapting because you know, Kaylee says you were teacher. I know you've been teaching from home. Ari's been doing a lot more streaming. She's actually streaming some characters right now as we speak.
Oh, cool.
Which is why she's
I'm drawing at the same time.
Yeah.
Cool.
But you know, like for us, we've also been having to adapt to. We've already had an online presence, but we've been adapting to doing more, just streamlining that process for customers and putting more of an emphasis on that, and that's helped go a long way. You know, but like, I think after this, a lot of people are going to. I think this may not be the new norm, but I think people are realizing how much they like can do from home now.
Yeah.
Because like for example, we're all quarantined. It's supposed to say 6 feet away, but like we can all have this conversation for as long as we want, like instantaneously, and we're from. Not to call out where everyone lives, but you know, only half of us are in New Jersey. Everyone else is from somewhere else here.
Yeah.
So you know, and I think that's a good thing. But I think, you know, one of the things is just indicative of life in general is you just need to adapt or die.
So true.
And unfortunately, you know, since you guys do. You know, most of you have collaborators and stuff. Like, you know, for instance, Kayla, yours is your husband. You already live together, so it's. But you know, with how communications, we're all interconnected now. It's really easy to still get your work done and even get it out there now. Maybe this is even better time. Maybe more people are paying attention to social media and streams and stuff. So this might be a good time to. Not saying it's a great time to there's the benefit of everyone, you know, getting sick and
right.
But try to keep the positivity going here. So is there any advice you'd give any young people who potentially would be interested in pursuing a career in the arts?
Learn how to run a business.
Learn how to run a business.
That's pretty much what you do. Like, you know, it's one of the things that I wish I had known when I was going to school. Like I thought, you know, I would be a part of the same paradigm where you go to school, graduate from college or whatever, and then you go get a job. And then I'm thinking, I'm going to come out of school and I'm going to go work at Disney, or I'm going to go work here, here, here. And, you know, that stuff's not forever, you know. So the next thing you have to do is you have to learn how to make yourself irreplaceable. And the best way to be irreplaceable is to have your own business and create your own buzz around what you do. And people will come to you. So, like, you know, like, as long as you're putting out awesome work and promoting stuff, like, you never know, you might end up getting that call one day, and it's, you know, Warner Brothers, or it's Disney, or it's Marvel, or whatever, and they're like, hey, you know, we've got this project coming up, we need an artist, we saw your work, you know, we'd really, really love to get your drawing style or your art style onto this project, you know. So you have to learn how to deal with contracts. You have to learn how to talk to people and deal with clients, because pretty much everyone is a client. And how to deal with copyright stuff. And even as a caricature artist, I still have to deal with clients, and I still have to deal with contracting. I still have to deal with selling the rights to work to people so that they can use it for things, because sometimes they're like, draw my picture and make me an avatar and I want to use it on my new t-shirt, and I'm like, you know. So I'd say it's really beneficial to kind of get a little bit of business management under your belt so that you can manage yourself and have a successful career. You're not just sitting around twiddling your thumbs going, why can't I have money? And I'm so poor. I'm so tired of being poor. I'm a starving artist. Because I really believe that the philosophy of being a starving artist is just bull crap, because it's not true.
So true.
It's just, you have something that other people don't, and that's the ability to create something from nothing, and they wish that they could.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I'll say as someone who's not as artistically inclined, yes, that is pretty major, and it's always impressive just to see. Yeah, like you said, creating something from nothing. Just basically get an idea in your brain and you put it on paper. That's like amazing. But yeah, I always recommend people know their worth and what their time is. Their time has value, because I know something that a lot of you come across early in your career is like, oh, getting paid in like exposure, and stuff like that.
Yeah, always get paid money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
get paid in money.
tricked into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'd say, oh, go ahead, Ari.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I have an interesting story about exposure. Like,
Sure.
So there's this group called it's called I think it's called Heroes Initiative.
Oh yeah, I know the Heroes Initiative. Yeah.
And these people were doing like a project for the Heroes Initiative, and they asked me if I would be willing to, you know, help them work on this comic. So they sent me the script or whatever, but of course it was all volunteer. And so I was like, yeah, sure, you know, I'll participate in that. So I did the comic, and they had a colorist who colored it, and it disappeared for years. I never heard anything back from it.
Wow.
And one day I get an email, and they're like, yeah, we finally published that story you did. And it was like years later. And then they put out an article, and I thought it was kind of embarrassing. And the article was, should an artist work for free? And then
No way.
on that comic that I did for free. And I was like, wow, that's really crappy, you know? And I'm like, what happened to all this exposure and overdoing this? And I'm like, you know, Heroes Initiative is like a pretty big thing. Like, they raise money for artists who are basically retired and don't have, you know, money coming in. So I'm just thinking, yeah, this is a great opportunity to be a part of this. But yeah, I just thought that was
Jeez.
That's so strange.
Yeah, like even reputable places can take advantage, I guess.
Totally.
Yeah, and like and sometimes it's unintentional on people on the client's part as well, potentially. Because I know I've helped, I've worked with some of you before in the past. Like Sean, you've done a bunch of art for web stores and T-shirts and stuff. But we always wanted to make sure you got paid, even though we're use your art for multiple things.
Yeah. Well, and I think one other thing I'd say to like people who are trying to get into it is just have as much communication as you can. Because I don't know, like for what it's worth, you guys have always been incredible. Like I've never felt slighted in any way or anything. But that's because we talk to each other. We make sure we're both getting what we need and everything. And that's probably the best thing you can have with a client, or anyone that you're working with in general, I guess. But at least,
I mean, that's just good advice in general, to be as communicative as possible. For both relationships, but like at work, like that's our biggest thing. We have to we're always in contact with each other because we need to make sure we're all on the same page. And
totally,
we want to. You can overshare, but it can't. When it comes to like doing work and stuff, like you can't keep every line of communication as open as possible. And I think that's just kind of good advice in general. And treat people the way you want to be treated. It's like the most basic kindergarten advice, but you'd be surprised how much. Well, you guys may not be surprised, but in general, people would be surprised how much people don't do that.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's like very important to tell people who are just starting out is that, now more than ever, we can really see like what people all over the world are creating. And like, that's really fabulous and really wonderful, but it's so easy to get caught in that trap of comparing yourself to all of these amazing people out there. And I think that it's really important to remember that we all like serve a purpose and we all have our own perspective and spin on things. And that, the most beautiful thing about art is that we could all be given the same prompts and each one of the outcomes is going to be unique and, special to the artist. So I think that like, no matter what level you think your drawing ability is, just do it. If that's what you want to do and that's what you're feeling inside, then like make it. Who cares? And like the more you do it, the better you get. Truly, like, some people are naturally inclined to be creative and to make that connection in their brain, but really a lot of it is just practicing over and over and over and over again. I tell the kids that all the time. They always want to get down on themselves about what they're making, but it's really just I think that's really important.
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah, always be grinding. I was gonna say, because I don't know if you've done Inktober, Ari, but I know Sean and Kayla have, right? Which is where you get everyone gets the same prompts, but like you get wildly different pieces depending on who's participating. And I think that's really interesting. It's always, as someone who's a non-artist, it's interesting to follow that even on social media, just to see all the crazy stuff people come up with. And you got to do it every day. And it's like, wow. But so what are some of the upcoming projects you all have that people can look forward to? Kayla, I know you said you got a book coming.
Yeah, I got a book coming. I got a children's book coming, a picture book, and I have Star Savior Bunny issue number 4, which is really exciting. I'm currently enrolled in an animation program, and I'm hoping that might lead to some Star Savior Bunny cartoons in the near future, but we will see. I still am a long way off from that, I think, but that is kind of like where my brain is going towards now.
And do you have anything upcoming, Sean? I know you said you get that Turtles project you're working on.
Yeah, Turtles project is probably the soonest on the horizon. Always working on the webcomic. I bought the domain name, so hopefully I put it up soon.
Congrats.
So you just have the name, you didn't put the site together yet?
Pretty much. So I got to figure that out too. But otherwise, I think those are the 2 big ones right now. I've been focusing a lot on storyboard work, which is partly why I did the comic, just to get more experience, trying to get a job in that or whatever. So putting a lot of effort in that, but maybe some more animation coming soon. I don't know. Mostly the Turtles comic, which I'm excited about. So.
And Ari, what you working on now? Since you got a book
Um,
coming.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of working on writing this story, and I set this goal to do like a little painting, digital painting once a week because I'm trying to nail down my drawing style and have a good consistency with my coloring style for my projects. I feel like all my books are gonna pretty much be in black and white, and because I just love black and white and I like inking. But like the painting a week is to kind of get my motivation up and kind of keep me moving forward towards something. So some of those could probably end up as covers or something for the future, just like, maybe some interior artwork later on when the next project actually comes out. So just
Nice.
doing
I was
that.
gonna say,
And,
I know your stuff it's very like bold and looks really good, like black and white. It looks good color too, but I know your black and white stuff pops.
yeah, that's what I love actually is I love inking and I love black and white work. So
Okay.
like where my love is.
So it goes back to the Ninja Turtles conversation because their comics are black and white.
I have the first issue of the Ninja Turtles hanging on my wall, and it's signed by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman.
Oh, you got both of them?
Man.
Kendall and I were showing off some of our Turtles stuff that we have during our stream. I only have stuff signed by Kevin Eastman, and I don't have number one. I have number one, but it's like the 6th printing. But I did have Raphael's like micro series. That's the earliest, coolest one I have.
Yeah, mine is the 2nd edition, and I got lucky because it was I was in New York, and it was the last show Peter Laird ever did.
Yeah, he does not come out much.
Surrounded by people, and I ran up with my comic and I said, "Can you please sign this?" And he signed it and handed it back to me, and then I ran away.
Yeah, how I met Kevin Eastman was so I don't know how much you guys know about the inside comic book industry, but Diamond is the comic like the only comic distributor in the country, and every year they put on like a retailer like show where they have all the publishers come out and they usually bring their creators and stuff, so they try to sell you on their upcoming books. IDW, we didn't know that they were bringing him. But they brought Kevin Eastman, and they had a big stacks of books, and like if you waited in line, they would sign them for you. So I turned to everyone from the store I went with, and I was like, "Listen, I gotta wait in this line." I didn't know he was gonna be here, so I that's how I met Kevin Eastman. And I'm sure there's a picture. We took a picture of me meeting him. I'm sure it's on our Facebook or something somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you want to see the full thing, you got to watch our TMNT movie commentary.
Oh, dude, you gotta. Where do we see that?
Yeah, so we were Kendall and I recorded it the other day. It's a little inside baseball for the stream here today for Free Comic Book Day Online. I haven't put together the schedule yet, so I don't know. It's either has played when you're watching this, or it will be playing sometime after you've watched this. But we'll eventually have all of this up on our YouTube page, so you can just watch them whenever you want.
Awesome.
But that's kind of a good segue here to. So we're all fans of this stuff to begin with, but like, what are some of the inspirations and either projects or various creators that you guys have had over the years?
There's like so many answers to that.
Yeah,
just like picking the right one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Let's say, Kayla, I know you were a big Sailor Moon, and very clearly that inspired a lot of Star Savior Bunny.
Yeah, there has been, there's so many people that have tried to capture what that was, and I just feel like it's just the most perfect version of itself. It's just the most like magical thing, no like pun intended. It just like really is like, and I feel like I've tried like other franchises like it, other like magical girl kind of animes, and just nothing comes close to it. And I'm sure it's all about, like nostalgia and like time and place when you've seen those kinds of things. But yeah, I think about it so much in my normal everyday life. It's kind of just like sad a little bit. But yeah, so anything that's kind of along that like magical girl line, like I love Steven Universe, and I think that's like a really beautiful, lovely show, like one of a kind. I've never seen anything like that before. And I feel like the backgrounds in that show are just like so amazing. Like when I get stuck on what I think a background should look like, I'm always referencing like Steven Universe backgrounds. I just think that like the artwork in that show is like phenomenal.
That's cool.
And I lately, I mean, this doesn't really connect to either of those that well, but I've been really a huge fan of like the newest DuckTales. I found that like the kind of style that they're drawn in, I'm really like drawn into that simplistic, almost kind of like abstracted like design of like these characters that you know so well. Like I just think that they're really beautifully drawn as well.
Oh, we
So
can get to a whole conversation
Oh,
with DuckTales.
if you do
I
a
love it.
DuckTales, you call me, okay?
Yeah,
Like I'm there.
For people who don't know, I'm a huge fan of like the Disney Ducks.
So good.
I love the new DuckTales. I just caught up with Saturday's episode.
So good.
But yeah, Sean, what are some of the inspirations you've had over the years?
I'd probably say the most like basic one, but probably the strongest would be like early SpongeBob. Hands down, definitely 100%. It's just the funniest. I don't know, like it still is. Just early SpongeBob is just so good.
So good.
Like how they stretch like emotion and like their jokes and how funny they are. You just can't beat it. I don't know. I just think I don't know. Like I think like one of my favorite movies of all time is the SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I saw it for my birthday, like when I was, I don't know, 2005, whenever it was, and it's just the best. I don't know. I watch it whenever I watch it, it's just the funniest. Every single frame is hilarious. But it's so good. That probably Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Huge fan of Craig McCracken. Just he's another person who just made me do what I'm doing now. And more of like a modern inspiration would probably be Adventure Time. It's my favorite show. I love how it can be extremely silly, but also touch on mature topics and themes and be very grown up about stuff. And like, depending on the work I'm doing, like, not the Ninja Turtles comic necessarily, but some of my other comics, like that's the kind of balance that I like to strive. Like, sometimes we're just super goofy like SpongeBob, and sometimes we want to look cool and talk about some stuff and kind of get lost in that. So
yeah, I can see some of that in your work, especially Adventure Time.
Yeah.
And Ari, has there been any influences you'd like to share with us?
So like my influences are kind of all over the place.
That's fine.
So okay, so I kind of started out reading comics late. Like I didn't really start reading them until I was 25. Like before that, it was all animation. And when I would read comics, it was always manga. So like one of my biggest influence was Rumiko Takahashi, who did Rama One Half, and
so good.
I love her work.
Inuyasha, right?
Inuyasha, yes. And so like her work, I could go back and read her comics all day long, even if and just over and over again. And I just love them so much because they're hilarious and they have a good balance between like ridiculous humor and like adult humor. So it's not too childish, but it's not too like adult at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take itself overly serious, and then there's that nice little cross of romance in there that you can laugh at. So, like I really get into that. And then like I go from that extreme to like artists like Frank Frazetta and Claire Wendling, who both do a lot of fantasy work, and I think that stuff really informs my inking and how I approach my backgrounds, and like that sensibility of like I just like that atmospheric look that they have. I don't know, their works really emotes a lot to me, like the way that the characters and the people move. So I'm like super into those two artists. And then like of course I love the Little Mermaid and Ninja Turtles and all that. So, yeah, I pull a lot of like that animation movement fluidity into my style as well. So it's like it's a good mix, I'd say, between like a little bit of fine art and a little bit of cartoon art and a little bit of in between somewhere in there.
that's fine because you take all this stuff and you make it your own, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a kid who liked to draw a lot, you know, when you're young, you end up mostly just trying to copy a style.
Right.
Like I know so many comic book artists that are, you know, our age that, you know, grew up was reading comics in the 90s that tried doing like Rob Liefeld clone stuff, but have very much moved on and become their own things. Like if you look at anyone's, especially in comics, because people that have been working for a long time, they end up putting out a lot of stuff. But like even if you look at like Jim Lee or Mark Bagley is my example I like to use. If you look back at their 90s stuff, it was very much that Marvel, like Rob Liefeld house style. But then you like that looks so different from Ultimate Spider-Man. And that is even like, oh my God, like 15, 10, 20 years ago now. And like his stuff, I think in general, as long as you talk about looking back at your old stuff and cringing, well, that's good because if you're not improving, you know, everyone should be improving every day in every facet of their life if they can. So it's good that you can even look back as, you know, because, you know, Kayla and Sean, you guys are younger. Even you guys seeing improvements in your styles over the years is still really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's everyone been doing for fun since we've been stuck, you know, in the after times here, you know, to keep yourself, not just work and drawing and stuff, but like, you know, just like reading any good books, watching any good movies or shows or anything.
Well, Scott knows that I'm really into Bomberman these days. Is that
Oh,
what
yeah.
it's called? Did I call it by the right name?
Yeah, it's Bomberman.
Okay, good. I usually, and I know that the audience out there is probably going to hate me for this, but usually I don't really get the appeal of video games. I know that sounds really horrible.
See, I was surprised when the three of us were playing that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I was like, oh, Kayla doesn't like video games, I thought.
But lately, I've been super into video games. Like, I remembered how much I loved Katamari, so I've been playing Katamari.
Oh yeah, they
I
put
remember how
that,
much I loved DDR. I've been playing DDR.
Yes, I know you guys got the Switch. I know they put
Yeah.
Katamari Reroll on that.
Untitled Goose Game, that's my I love it.
I love Untitled Goose Game, yeah.
Oh, so
I think
good.
one of us, because we do the end of the game, or end of year like awards. I forget who picked, but someone picked Untitled Goose Game as Game of the Year.
It just cracks me up. I love being that goose.
Yeah.
Just fucking people up. Sorry, are we allowed to curse? I probably should have asked that before.
I'll probably edit that.
Okay, sorry.
This is a family stream.
Sorry, families.
But yeah, I know you used to give Kendall guff because he wanted to play video games.
Well, I think that sounds like, for me, can very easily like turn it off when I feel like I've had enough. But like some people just like, they just like can't quit until they are done. And I think that's like, I feel like it can be such a time sucker if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just like such a stickler about like wasting time. Like I want to make sure that like, I'm always trying to use my time to the most efficient. You know, like, I guess that's like the weird control freak in me. So I've been trying to be like cooler about it.
All right.
Yeah, I totally get you on the video games thing. I used to be really heavy into them growing up. And then one day I was like, I can't do anything but this if I'm doing this. And like, it kind of is interesting because it kind of takes your mind off of things and it takes you into another world. But I'm like, well, I could be creating worlds instead of, you know, running through someone else's world. So, you know,
exactly. Good point.
Yeah. So, like, I totally get you. I actually love, like, DDR. That's, like, my favorite right there.
We should play sometime over Zoom.
I still have a PS2.
Yes.
Dude, and I had the pads and stuff. I'm like, man, I have no excuse to be bored during the corona.
Yeah, I got it because I was like, I usually wear a Fitbit at work just because like you're on your feet all day. And I was like, I'm not getting my 10,000 steps. How can I get my 10,000 steps? That's
cool.
when DDR resurfaced.
Girls.
Yeah, I definitely put on weight since we've been stuck at home.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I think I have the possibly lamest answer to exercise during the quarantine, which has been Wii Fit. I've been going hard into Wii Fit. Straight up.
So, were you doing Wii Fit or Ring Fit adventures?
I would die to play Ring Fit. I would love it.
I
But
know
it's
it's been hard
sold
to
out.
get.
Yeah. So I got.
I haven't heard of Ring Fit.
So it's kind of like their new thing. It's this big crazy ring you got to put your controllers into. But like, so it's got a bunch of exercise related to it, but like, it's like an RPG action game. So to actually do things in the game, you have to physically be working out in real life, rather than just like Wii Fit's mostly like yoga poses and like some minor gameage.
Yeah, it's like I have a routine that I do in Wii Fit, and it's like fine. I'm not super. I mean, I've been playing it since like it came out, pretty much, and I'm just getting back on it now because I do not have any other means of exercise, and I love it. But I would love to play Ring Fit. It just sounds like it's so much fun.
It is. I will tell you, it is fun, but you look ridiculous.
I'm playing Wii Fit. I'm already used to that. Yeah.
So you gotta be really comfortable with yourself.
I believe it. I do.
Don't play in public.
Yep.
But that's okay. So Sean, you watching anything? Or
I
I know you played some Animal Crossing. I know your girlfriend's way more into it.
Yeah, and I meant to say regarding like spending a lot of time in games. I think what I realized recently about me like spending a lot of time in games, because I play a lot of games, I think for me I need to be getting something out of the game for me to not feel like I'm wasting my time. Because like recently I find myself just like spending hours in Animal Crossing, which is great.
So much about Animal Crossing.
I also put a significant amount of time in Animal Crossing. Well, it came out right as we all got stuck at home.
Yeah.
So, and then at least for the first couple of weeks when it came out, basically everyone I knew was playing it, and we're all kind of like playing it with each other. So it was fun in that regard. But
yeah,
my island's more or less done until they release new content.
Yeah.
I think that's like a nice thing. It can be like a social experience if you do it right. You know what I mean? And like that's like a really nice thing about it.
Yeah.
Like video gaming and that
Well, certain games like that, like you're saying, you want to feel accomplished. Like I like ones where it's like you set out and make your own goal and then you work to achieve it. I think the new Animal Crossing does a lot of that, but like nothing's better than Stardew Valley for that, where it's like the game literally just drops you on like an empty farm and there's just a ton of things you can keep discovering and doing. Yeah. But everything you do is a goal you set out. It's not like this is the level where you built the barn.
Yeah. I think
it's funny. Is Animal Crossing, like someone was describing this game to me where they have to like build a home and have a garden and like make a bunch of, and I'm like, wait, that just sounds like real life.
Or Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a slice of life kind of thing. It also gives you the illusion of being like, I am a homeowner now, which is
I have agency over something.
But it's one of those things. Like I've told people, it's like if it sounds dumb to you, you probably won't like it. But it does let you do a lot of creative things. Like all of our islands are so different from each other, but we all have the same essential toolbox. Sorry, my
I might play this. Out. It sounds like my kind of thing, actually.
It's a thing that I think people that aren't necessarily into video games would be into. But the game's designed in such a way that like is because it works on real time. Like you can't really sit there and play it all day long unless you keep changing your clocks, your system's clock, and then you can keep skipping ahead a day. Which is usually frowned upon.
And it really is real life.
Yeah. Which I like because I wake up every morning and there's something new every day, whether it's something small like, oh shoot, I ordered that nasty chair I wanted, it's in the mail, or it's like, oh boy, I wonder if I get any new flowers growing in my town, or it's like, I don't know, it gives me, especially like during early quarantine, it gave me something to look forward to every day. Which was really nice.
To get out of bed.
And I'm now at the point where I really only play for maybe like 20 minutes, half hour every day. I pop in, I water my flowers, I send some mail. I work on.
I usually pop in and see what's for sale that day, and then I'm in a couple of like Discord and Facebook groups, and like we're like, hey, this is what we have, and then so we can collaborate on different things.
God, if people were this productive in real life, we might actually have a
Right?
functioning economy.
Well, all right. So it's like your loans
Selling
and
fish
stuff. You
bugs, so-
have no interest. They have no deadline. Like it's not super realistic.
Yeah, but still, it's like,
But
man, if I really did.
It was a good escape at the time. I mean, I'm still checking it out, but now I'm moved on to other things like Indivisible and stuff. But
Does
I've
Candy
been-
count? Because does Candy Crush count?
Yeah,
why not?
sure.
I feel like I'm like the bad video gamer now because I'm like I just play Candy Crush before I go to
Hey, you
sleep tonight.
Play what you
Nothing wrong
like.
with that.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's your time and your dime. So do what you
Yeah.
want to do there.
Well, there's no dimes involved in it. That's part of the reason. why.
Yeah. Like I play a lot of stupid mobile games just because it's like, I always have my phone on me. I listen to a lot of podcasts now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
A lot
I
of
want to
content.
listen to that. I can check on like, various idle games and stuff I've got. But now that we've been talking about video games for 100 years, what are you guys looking forward to doing the most once we can leave the house again?
I want to go to the gym.
Mm.
I miss dance class. I'm ready to do some Zumba.
Oh, I know. Pinball. I'm dying without pinball.
I know.
I need it. It's been rough.
Things are we like halfway through our most recent pinball league, we had to shut down. So we just barely started that itch up. And I've got pinball effects on my Switch, but it's digital tables.
Not the
It's
same.
different.
It's not the
Different.
same.
No.
I need the lights and the sounds and the buttons.
Yeah.
I'll just go to the casino, aren't they still?
No, they're closed here.
I can't believe they're closed, actually.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It's one thing the coronavirus has made me acutely aware of is how like really gross people are.
Yeah.
Imagine people sitting there like touching everything all day long, and it's just like, I don't know.
Rubbing their noses.
Yeah, I've never seen
Yeah.
Having a
like
bar.
slot machines and stuff getting cleaned.
Yeah.
We live near Atlantic City, so spend a fair amount of time around casinos,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, ooh. I become way more aware of that stuff. I'm like, not
Yeah.
that I was like a germaphobe before, but
Now.
again, you just become aware of it. It's just yeah, people are kind of gross.
Yeah.
Ew, disgusting humans.
Yeah. I think I'm excited to just like not be afraid to go outside.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
that will be nice.
Yeah, like Nina, my partner Nina and I, we play a ton of Pokemon Go, and we just love to walk around. Like we'll spend a whole day outside, and just it tracks our steps and stuff, and maybe there's something cool around. But like just going to parks and just checking stuff out. Maybe go to a new location and see what they got there. That's my biggest thing is I miss going out.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard people talk about Pokemon Go, but I've never played it. Like
It's pretty
I've had
chill.
friends who play it. You can just put it on your phone though, right? Like it's not like one of those you have to have a system or anything.
Yeah, it's a phone
No.
game, so essentially, the premise of Pokemon, right?
Yeah, gotta catch them all.
Essentially, you walk around, and based on your GPS, things will pop up in the game in real life, and then you can kind of just catch them. So but like, you're encouraged to go to different like historical and spots of interest because they'll be tagged with like different things that like will give you chance to battle people or get items and stuff. So it really benefits if you live in a city because there's just more stuff.
Right.
But
Stuff.
yeah, well, there's like parks and like places of interest and things.
I can say, Ari, I genuinely don't really have an interest in Pokemon at all, other than I think that they're cute. But I know I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
I mean, hurt me a little bit, but you said they're cute, so I'm okay.
I'm so sorry. I love your drawings of them. They're like my favorite versions.
Oh, well, thank you. We're good again.
But as somebody who's not interested, it's fun to play. Like I would give it a shot.
So you've played it too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I-
I
It's
just know
good.
that I've seen like clips online of like the new episodes of Pokemon and the new Pokemon trainers, and I was like, oh man, I remember back in the day when I loved watching that. I could
Mm.
watch that again, and then I just don't.
And
Like,
then
Oh,
you
that
don't.
show has not held up.
my head.
Yeah. I loved Pokemon growing up, and the last game I was like, I think I'm done.
Aw.
End of an era.
Yeah, they keep taking stuff. We don't have to get into the whole thing.
That's like a whole other episode. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Scott and I could go back
Yeah.
and forth, really hash
we've
it
had some
out.
Pokemon discussions, but from a design standpoint, I do like them a lot. I like the ones specifically that pull more from like mythology and like legends and folklore and stuff,
Mhm.
or based on yokai or things. I find that stuff more interesting
Mhm.
than just
Totally.
like, oh, it's a camel that breathes fire. Okay,
The giant
but
wasp. It's a murder wasp.
Yeah.
but yeah. So with that all said, where can people find you guys online?
You can find me on Facebook under Ari Monroe or Draw Like Crazy. I'm also got my own website, drawlikecrazy.net, and I have a second site that's arimonroeart.com. And I'm trying to update them more now that this whole thing is happening, because now I'm like, oh, there's no reason for me not to sit here and work on my website. So I've been
True
doing
story.
more updates. And I'm on Instagram as well under Ari Monroe or whatever, Draw Like Crazy, both of those. Or at home. You can find me at home.
You can find me on most places. I'm Sfinerface, SFINERFACE.
Oh, I've been pronouncing it Finer Face.
Well, that's my fault because my name doesn't have two N's in it. So
Yeah.
if it was FINN, then but whatever. I kind of roll both ways, I guess. I don't know, but so I'm there. I'm that on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, kind of whatever. You'll find me there. I have a website, SeanFineran.com. Nice and easy. I don't update it too much, but maybe I will. I don't know.
You should.
You
Yeah.
should.
I should.
It's like video. It's like being in a video game. You're building your own
Yeah.
thing.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I see. We should have a web designer video game.
Oh, I'm sure
yeah.
they exist. The internet's a big place.
You can find me I have a bunch of different Instagrams because I can't decide what I want to do with my life. So you can find our webcomic Star Savior Bunny at Star Savior Bunny on Instagram, and we upload our pages onto tapas.com, which is like a web comic kind of hub. And then I also have how many do I have? I also have one that's like my personal kind of just like fun little fan art doodles and that kind of thing. And that's at This Is Radio Flash on Instagram.
This is Radio Flash.
Yeah, it started out as I was doing like daily flash sheets for tattoos because like I've always wanted to be a tattoo artist, but I don't think that's going to happen. So like my favorite part of that kind of dream was to make those flash sheets where like I pick a theme and I could kind of like lay them out and do all the different kind of things that connect to each other in that theme. So I also am a fan of The Clash. Just kind of like merged together into one.
Well, guys, thanks very much for participating in this.
Thank
I really,
you.
really enjoyed talking to you.
It was fun.
And obviously, if we can find any, I think you all have projects available at the store. If not, then you have something soon. I know I've got Ari and her comic. I know, I forget what issues. I don't have all the issues of Star Savior Bunny, but I at least have issue 1 at the store. Sean will have something from you soon.
Yeah.
But you guys all have something available to download for free on our website. Just go to levelupentertainment.com, and it's under our free comic book day downloads. Since that was an event we had to cancel, I wanted to make sure people still were able to get things for free, and you all been generous with both your time and your work. But so with that said, enjoy the rest of the stream. And if you can, donate to our local food banks. The link should be up in the chat. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.